Qlik Dork back again. Hello, my friends. Today I'm bringing you Dorkcast episode 32. As always, I'm filming here from my Data Cathedral studios in beautiful, sunny, and slightly cloudy today, Gainesville, Georgia. The title of my episode today is simply Wow. And I think you'll understand that in a moment when I introduce my guests. My first guest today is an old friend. His name is Qlik, and Qlik is a data junkie. I asked Qlik to give me the title he'd like. He picked data junkie. I have to say that absolutely fits, but I'm not going to lie, folks. His profile picture here, I think, was generated by generative AI because Qlik always has a smile on his face. So I know that this is a computer-generated image that doesn't really know him, and that's why he doesn't have a smile on his face here. I know that you all are multitaskers and can do multiple things at one time, so feel free to put the video on one side of your screen, go out to LinkedIn, connect with him, or go to his website. I also have Amit with me here today, and Amit is a sustainability enthusiast, so I'm looking forward to hearing about that. Sustainability is a big goal for us here at Qlik. Again, you've got his LinkedIn profile information there. Feel free to go connect with him. And we're going to be talking about their Wowizer product today. Haha, that's how I got my title, Wow. And so they say that they are empowering Qlik Champions to proactively manage performance, governance, and drive adoption. You know, all the things that the Qlik Dork talks about all the time, and things that you out there probably need to do for your environments to ensure that y'all are safe. So, guys, I sure appreciate you being here with me today and taking time. Kosha, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started with Qlik?
There's a funny story. So after I completed my graduation in 2009, I happened to meet Amit. And Amit back then, he earlier used to be in US, and he worked there, and he came back home in India. And then he started a company where he wanted someone to get started.
Okay.
And I also want someone, I wanted also someone to bear me, right? I mean, give me a head start to my career. And that's where we kind of met together. And I just started my journey there in 2009 and together since then. And the first product we together explored is Qlik. And we started with Qlik almost 2010. And
Fantastic.
Since then, I'm using Qlik. I'm totally in and out of Qlik. So I have that, crush on a Qlik, I would say.
Yeah.
And I never want to go up, away from a Qlik, even though, today there are a lot of technologies around, but I'm still sticking to Qlik, and that's my first love.
Nice.
So,
Actually,
yeah.
Actually, I just wanted to add here, one of the first product we also explored was talent. So, and it's deja vu that 15 years later, talent comes along with Qlik. So
that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So you guys already have experience. I'm sure you're taking the talent classes to make sure you can get certified in talent. And now you guys will have like 18,000 certifications from Qlik hanging on your wall. That's fantastic. Yep. And so Wowizer is not really a product as much as a suite of products. Is that right?
Correct. It's a suite of product where we help our customers and Qlik Champions to kind of start with the journey by understanding that how their environment is going around and ensure that that environment is most optimized and useful to the end users to kind of play around with it. And then we help them kind of move from on-prem to cloud with our another product, which is Qlik Cloud Migration Accelerator. And then once you're on cloud, we have the Cloud QMC, which helps the Qlik Champions again to kind of manage the entire environment. So that's those the three products that we have. That's a flagship products that we have. So it's a, to your point, it's an entire product suites as Wowizer.
Nice. And that's, I think, the whole idea of managing your environment is something that the IT folks certainly get. I think one of the beautiful things about Qlik Sense that was a little bit different than Qlik View is people just think in terms of business because they can. I'm just going to drag and drop master items onto my screen. I'm self-service. And they don't think about, well, now who spent time creating those master items? Who's moving my data for me? Right? It's magic.
Right.
It just happens, right?
Yep.
But the IT folks and the real developers understand there was work that had to go into that. And like any type of code that you develop, whether it's graphically with drag and drop, right? No code, low code type things, you still need to manage those environments. Right.
Absolutely.
So the first product I saw from you guys last year, we had connected a lot through social media over the years and talked about a lot of different things. But then I saw your product last year at Qlik Connect, and it read log files and could let you see where there may be some problems happening, some bottlenecks, things like that. But this year, I was really impressed with what you mentioned about helping people move to the cloud. And so how did you come to develop that? Did you just wake up in the morning at 3 a.m. and think we should develop this product? Or was it really driven by the customers? Because you guys do offer consulting to companies.
Yes.
So was this a brainstorm you all had, or was this customer saying, I need help?
That's what happened. So this happened to be one of our large customer into agropharma.
Okay.
And our customers since ages, like since Qlik View, they are our customers, and then we help them to move to Qlik Sense. And then one fine day they said, okay, we want to go to Qlik Cloud. Now, how do we go about it? And that's where we thought initially that, okay, let's go one by one. But then we thought, okay, I mean, Qlik already provides those open APIs, right? I mean, if you look at Qlik as a product, it's not the closed product. It still has an ability. It gives you an ability where you can do miracles with the APIs, right?
Yep.
And that's where we kind of internally talked about it. Okay, our bigger customer has this issue. How do we resolve it? And that's how this product came into picture, where we said, okay, let's create a small utility which will kind of migrate the apps from on-prem to cloud. That's what our first feature that we had. And eventually we started kind of, adding more features to the product. And then we realized that, okay, I mean, if this can be done for one customer, this can be extended to many more customers, right? So why not we kind of do that? So that's how the journey started for the Migration Accelerator.
Yeah, kind of once you go through a project plan and you see, hey, this project plan works, and then I do it for a second customer, and I do it for a third customer, you start seeing some certain patterns there. Well, I would love to see the product, obviously, and I think those watching would love to see the product as well. They do like seeing my shiny bow tie, but then it gets old after a while. So if you want to share your screen, Qlik, and start sharing, I'd love to see it.
Sure. I'll just get started.
So just one piece that I wanted to add that on here where Qlik said is when we first started with the migrations, we felt it was very, very routine. But then there are several aspects to it which we realized when we did a couple of migrations, and we thought all that knowledge can be brought in together and can be shared with others who are just kind of starting with that journey and could make that life much easier for them and faster.
Yes.
So
yes.
That's where the Accelerator came up.
That's what everybody's looking for, right? And I like the fact you call it an accelerator, because is what I know about what I would have had to do to move my environment when I was a Qlik customer to the cloud is there would have been some things that I would have still had to do by hand, and some things more importantly that I would need to rethink. And so when we went to Qlik Sense and we offered a migration tool from Qlik View, it was, hey, maybe you should rethink some of your screens now, that you can use master items and how you build charts. And so I like that it moved a lot of it, moved your code, built objects, but you needed to maybe redesign your screens a little bit with what you could do with Sense. So I like the concept that we're just telling you right off the bat, we're not doing every 100%. It's going to be 90% of it to get you moving, and then you could rethink and probably upgrade some of the other things that you needed to do. Okay?
Correct.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. This is a local host, so I'm guessing this is an on-prem is where you install this. Okay.
Correct. So what we do is we install this Accelerator on customer environment, especially to avoid any data level securities and all. So we don't want customer to kind of give any of their data to anyone, right? So it's better that they hold the entire data and accountability on them. So that's what it is. Okay. So once you install, I mean, the first thing that I can do as an admin or migrator, project manager is simply log in. The moment I do login right now, everything is already been configured, but I would take you through a couple of things. So first thing that you get started with is the giving the licenses. So definitely the product has a license. Okay. Right? But once you have the license, there are two basic things that you need to do. One is connect to your client managed environment. Right? So you can simply create a connection to your client managed. For example, I can just click here and just show you the graphics. So it requires the host name or the IP address of the server where you have installed instance. You need the Qlik admin ID, maybe the user who has the root admin access. Okay. Right. The virtual proxy address or user directory is what we configure here. All right. And then it just takes some optional parameters like app IDs. And so app ID is the one so in the background, we actually use the Migrator app, which has been installed on-prem, which kind of gathers all the information similar to what you can say, Qlik has its own, app, which is the migration app, right? Where it collects all the information about the environment and then it's kind of used in CLAs and everything else. So, so we can also do that. So once you're done with this, you are.
And I imagine if I've got a test, a development, a prod, I can have multiple client managed configurations here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you can have as many as client configuration you want to manage. Okay. Yep. All right. So once you are configured the client manage, next thing is like configure the SaaS. So again, it has its own parameters, like you have to pass the URL, you have to pass the API keys. Now, this API key, generally we recommend that you use a tenant admin to generate the API keys and pass it here. And
so, as you know, like it would have to be someone who had the development role in the cloud and could then say, I want to generate an API key.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I would say instead of development rights, I would say it has to be a tenant admin, because tenant admin has the access to the entire environment, right? Be it your apps, be it your space, be it your users, right? So it is recommended that you can have the tenant admin or any user who has almost the full accesses.
Okay. Gotcha. Right? And so it's not just the API key that you care about, it's who generated it and what their rights are. Okay.
Yep. And to your point, like, we can have as many as connections that you want, right? So you can connect to cloud, maybe if you have multiple cloud tenants, maybe for testing, maybe for development, you can also connect to multiple of them.
And it could be that someone created a business account, just as they were trying to try to get familiar with the cloud. Right. So they might want to test this out, and then they've got their real corporate tenant once they, convert that account or something. Okay.
Right. Yep. Okay. So once you do this, definitely the first thing we start with is migrating the users. Now, there might be a question here, like, why do I have to migrate the user? Because anyways, I'm going to have the IDP configured on my cloud, right? Do I really need to migrate the users? Now, what we do here is, when we are saying migrating users, the preliminary things that we are trying to address here is, even if I configure, AD or LDAP in the Qlik Cloud, a user has to first time log in in order to get the license assignments and other rights. Right. So I cannot go and tell my CEO that, hey, can you log in once so that I can give you an access? Right. So for that reason, what we do is we have given this functionality where I can migrate the users before actually. So for them, it becomes a seamless experience, even if they are connecting for the first time. So they will have all their, rights to the apps, right, to the space, everything pre-configured, so that they don't have to worry about any of the IT people to kind of do that job for them.
Yeah, and I heard that security is kind of an important thing.
Okay. So on the screen, let me just introduce this screen to you again. So starting with top, as I said, like when you have multiple connections, you can choose the connections that you want to have, which on-prem, which cloud, and what exactly you want to do. And once you have that selected, in this demo, we have just one-to-one mapping, so it's already been populated. But when you have multiple, you can simply select those. And then the table here shows that, how many users that I already have on my on-prem versus what I may have on Qlik Cloud. So because see, somebody has to first log in, being a tenant admin, right? So that user will be by default. Now, it may happen that, to your point, which you said previously, that, if I'm exploring something, I may have created 2-3 users who might have just log into Qlik Cloud and just explored the things here and there. And then they want to just have that entire tenant move to the productions with the Qlik licensing and all, right? So technically, I may have a couple of users already on Qlik Cloud, right, with whatever assignments that I have. So you can see here, for example, the user Emma, it's already there on cloud. So you can see here cloud status is checked, which means that this user exists on the cloud. And it has the same access being accessed like license on-prem and also on cloud. So on cloud also, the license is professional license, which is given to them.
And I'm imagining that cloud status would be the same if I was moving from dev and test and prod. Once I've moved Bob from one, he's already going to exist when I go to move the other users from test and then from prod.
Right.
Okay.
So now let's do one thing. Let's start with migrating some users. So you can see that I have 3 users which are not there on the cloud, right? I can quickly show that to you as well. So if I go on cloud, if I go to management and users, I would see only 2 users here. Okay, or 3 users. I have my own users as well. So okay, so I don't have the other users like Mark, Oliver, and Drew on cloud. Okay. So let's try to migrate them. So I'll just go here in the drop down. I'll just select the users that I want to move on and just click on the migrate. Okay. So at this moment, what will happen is the connectivity between both the environments will be established and your are migrated. Okay. Now, let me just show you that as well. So let me just move the screen away. And let me just refresh this. You see this?
That's pretty cool.
Users has been created, Mark, Oliver, and Andrew.
That's a lot easier than creating them by hand, that's for sure.
Right. So when you have a lot of users, like if you're talking about big customers who have 2,000, 3,000 users, this becomes very simpler. Just a click and boom, all your users are on cloud now. Okay. Right. So that's the first thing that we do with the users. Now, users are in place. Now let's start migrating the apps. So we go to the migrate apps. Again, on a migration of the apps, there are a lot of things involved, right? I mean, I can simply have, I can pick one stream from on-prem, have the same stream on cloud, and have the same apps within that move to the cloud. Or sometimes we may want to kind of, split those apps into multiple spaces or when we go to cloud, right? So there are 2 scenarios, 1-to-1, or you may want to kind of split those into multiples.
Sure.
So let me show you both the scenarios. So let's say, for example, I want to move my supply chain And within supply chain, I have 2 apps. So I'll just pick one app for now.
Okay.
And at this moment, because we are doing just one-to-one, I'll just say simply migrate. And again, it will ask me for the confirmation, and I just say migrate. Again, at this moment, it will kind of, the product will get the app from the on-prem and just simply move to the cloud.
Fantastic.
Okay? Now let me go to cloud. Okay. So on cloud, if I go to spaces, you will see this dev supply chain is one which we simply just created.
Okay. And that was by default, you prefix supply chain with dev underscore.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So simply we do this. I mean, we have kind of handled this using the environmental variables. At this moment, we are also, I mean, in the next version, we are going to have this also customizable.
Okay.
But with this version also, we can customize. I'll show you how it can be done. But before that, let me just show you that app. Okay. So the space might be created, but whether the app is there. So you can see that. Okay, let me go to a space first. So I go to supply, and then I can see this. This is the app which we are talking about.
Very cool.
Right. Now, same way, I can do a custom migration. Say, for example, I'll just select the custom migration. Now, this time, let's say I'll move the sales, one app from the sales.
Okay.
And I want to create. So when I move, I want to move it to the shared space, and assuming that this is the testing environment. Okay, this is a test app that I had.
Okay.
So what I can do here is I can say test sales.
Wow.
Just create.
Okay.
Now, when I do this, I have an ability where I can move the. So I can just make a check here, and all the private content of all the users.
Okay, so things don't have to be public.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So just wanted to mention, this was one of the key points which a lot of our customers had. They wanted to move the private content and the bookmarks, and we could do that in an automated fashion. So
that's nice. And I imagine that there's 50% of customers that want to do that, and 50% of the customers say that a Mick guy creates 1,000 sheets on his screen. I don't want to move those to the cloud.
Right.
Leave his
so different views, but
nice. So it's a pretty easy way. I check the box if I'm on the 50% side that want all that private content. Fantastic. If I'm on the other side that, hey, I only want the authorized stuff that we've already approved, moved forward.
Right.
Great.
So now let me again show you the same space, right? So I'll just refresh the page here on the cloud. And if I go to the drop down.
Yep. There should be test sales. There you go.
Test
Boom.
sales. And then I have the consumer sales.
Got your app. Okay.
Right. One more thing I just forgot to tell you on the previous screen, like when we moved app from like one-to-one.
Yep.
What will happen in cloud also is we will automatically create the space. Okay.
Okay.
Why we are doing this is we assume that that is the app that you want to productionize, and that's the same stream that you want to have on the cloud. Okay. So we, even though when we create a development space, we say dev underscore supply chain, but we also create a managed space. Just create a managed space where you can, once you have the app available in development, you want to make changes, and you can just simply publish it. Right?
That's nice.
So and automatically managed space has been created for you with the same name, which is there on the on-prem.
And I would imagine that even doing a demo like this for your customers would help them understand the logical difference, right? In the cloud, you've got development, test, and prod all together. They're all on one tenant. And it's the way that you do things and can migrate. So I think that's a great feature to be able to, hey, I'm going to move it. We're going to call that one dev by default. If you want to call it test, fantastic, we'll call it test. But we do need a production managed space. Very cool.
Yeah. So the app has been moved. So likewise, you can have a number of apps move from on-prem to cloud.
Yep.
The next challenge that you have is how do you assign the access to those spaces which has been created, right? So for that, we have the migrate user access.
Yeah. I'd spend 4 months, documenting everything by hand.
Yeah. So that's what generally has been done, right? So it's very difficult right now to get that information that, okay, if you have 1,000 apps and to get like who has an access to what app, it's a little tedious task. It's not that easy, right? So what we have done again, using the APIs, we have got those information. We have kind of mapped. Now, this is one problem which I want to kind of quote here. So for the first customer, when we were doing this migration, right? What we did, we simply connected or configured the LDAP on the cloud.
Okay.
Users started kind of logging in.
Right.
And that's where we had a challenge when we wanted to kind of move the access from on-prem to cloud, because right now there is no mapping available that Qlik user on-prem is the same Qlik user on cloud, because you don't have a common key between those two users anywhere.
Okay.
Because if you see, like if you remember, like on-prem, we identify user by domain/username.
Right.
Whereas we go on a cloud, we have a different ID and different mechanism to identify that user.
Right.
Right? So that is another thing that we have kind of tried to solve using migrate users. So automatically this happens in the background. When you migrate the users, automatically product will kind of have that created internally.
Okay.
Where it automatically understands that Qlik on-prem is Qlik on cloud.
So you maintain some type of a database.
Yes.
That has those mappings, so you can
Correct.
do this. Perfect. And what you guys do, I always loved on the client managed, looking at the audit log and seeing this giant matrix of who could go to where, who had access to apps, what their access was, and just seeing the magnificence of this giant matrix. And what you guys are doing is you're basically reading that through the APIs that we provide, and then just reassigning all that same stuff, so that instead of me looking at a matrix, writing it all down, and then go and try to recreate it, you're just going to do it for me.
Yes, that's what we do.
Okay.
Yep. Now let's assume that we have the spaces created automatically when we migrated the app.
Yep.
Now we also have the users migrated. Now we want to give an access to those spaces to those users.
Okay.
Right? So what we can do is we can come to this migrate user access. By default, what we can do is we can say that, okay, I want to move all the access of the sales stream on the cloud, right?
Okay.
Now what will happen here, or instead of sales, let me say supply chain, because that's the managed space that we have created, right?
Right.
And I can simply click on migrate the access. I just say yes. What will happen here is all these 5 users will be added to that space member list.
All right.
If I take you back to cloud, we are into supply chain, and I'll just go to space details, say members, and boom, you have all those users here.
Wow. Okay.
Right. And by default,
who the owner was. Nice.
Yeah. And by default, they will have the can view access. And then if you want to kind of change, you can come to here and then you can change that. Or we can also do this using another product that we have, which is on the management side, which is Qlik Cloud Management Console, which we'll talk about later on. Like,
we definitely got to take a look at that then.
Yes. So that's one way of doing it. Now, sometimes, you may also want to give the access to the development spaces, right?
Yep.
So you can go and just say custom migrate. You say, okay, I want to have only this 1 or 2 users having access to, let's say, shared space test sales, for example, right? And I can simply say migrate.
Okay.
So again, if I can take you back to cloud, I'll just go to the test sales, go to the space details, go to the members, and then I have only Mark and Wowizer having access to this.
Okay.
right? So you choose which user you want to migrate the access to which spaces. So it gives you that flexibility of maintaining everything and deciding who should have access to what.
Yep.
Right. So we have the app, we have the users, we have migrated the access. Now the apps that we have migrated, how do we kind of make it up and running? Because as you know, the connectivity between on-prem and cloud is totally different.
Yep.
Right. I may have my on-prem database connected to my on-prem ClickSense, but then when you go to cloud, you have to have certain components in between to get your connectivity done.
So when you move the apps, did you move them with data?
It's without data.
You moved them without data. So I'd get there, the screen would open up and it would have nothing.
Absolutely. So for example, I can just show you that. So for example, we just migrated this app. Open, it's going to have nothing in it, right? It's totally blank app. Okay. The reason behind that is, as I said, you may have some data sources. For example, the common data source, which is SAP, right?
Yep.
When you're on, you already have connectors where you can simply connect to the SAP and get the data.
Yep.
Now, when you go to cloud, you don't, in some cases, if you're using ECC, EC3, you don't have a direct connectivity from the cloud.
Right.
You have to have the gateway in between, right? So your connectivity has to be established there first. And then all you have to do is just change the data connections, right?
So things like that you just mentioned, that's where your consulting expertise comes into play.
Yes.
Right. So I, as a customer, if I were looking to get this is going to get me 90% of the way there. The infrastructure is ready. Now it's a matter that I would, I didn't think that I needed a data gateway. Can you help me set that data gateway up and get my connections ready to go?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So once you have those data connections created on cloud, all you have to do here is we simply help you kind of map those on-prem data connections with the Qlik Cloud.
Okay.
And system will automatically change in all the apps wherever it is required. I mean, as a migrator, I can also choose the app that I want to.
Now, what do you mean it'll automatically change it in the apps?
Yeah. So if you remember, the way we do this is through the script, right? Every script will have its load statement and from statement.
Okay.
In from statement, you will define those data connections, that which place Qlik should go and look for the data.
Nice.
Right. So now on-prem, it could be a total different name.
Okay.
On cloud, it could be a total different name.
Right. But
right?
you got some type of map again in some database.
Yes. So you can create a database here. So for example, you can see on the screen that this connection names are all the connections which I have on my on-prem.
Okay.
Right? So I can see what connection type it has.
Yep.
Now, here I have to kind of define that what is a cloud connection, corresponding cloud connections to that on-prem connection.
Gotcha.
For example, let's say this is the one which I've used in all the apps that we migrated. I'll simply say edit, go here, and one of the data connections that I've created is this one. So now my on-prem, I was taking data from a folder connection, but when I move to cloud, I'm getting those data from my OneDrive.
OneDrive, nice. Okay.
Right. So I can simply say save, where it will temporarily save into the memory. Okay. And then it will help me understand in the next step that, hey, this is what you're trying to do. Okay. You have data connections from on-prem. This is the cloud you have done. Confirm if this is fine, right? Or else go back to previous step and change it.
And once I confirm this, when you press next, you're going to go out and anywhere that the old name was found in load scripts for the apps.
No. No. So there's a catch here. So, when I say next, what it will do is it will show me list of apps that we have migrated.
It's going to show
and then I can, and then I can decide. Let's say it may happen that I may have, migrated 500 apps, right?
Okay.
But for me, in the first phase, when I'm trying, I just want to update the script for only 2 apps, 3 apps, or 10 apps.
Just to test it, give yourself some.
Yes. Correct.
Okay.
So you can select what you want to do, which app you want to kind of deploy.
All right.
You can select all as well. I mean, it's not like you have to singly select everything.
Right.
You can say all, or you can select any one of the app or two of the apps, whatever you want to have.
Just to get a little confirmation that things aren't going to go nuts.
And then you simply say deploy. Right?
Crazy. Okay.
Once you say deploy, it's already been done. Right? Now I can go back to my cloud. So I guess I
timed out.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we kind of did it for the sales app. So let me just go to the sales. Okay. Yeah. Now, if this app has the old connections, when I reload, it's going to fail because it's not going to find the data connections.
Right.
But if it reloads successfully, which means that the data connections are updated. So I'll just say reload.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this app is almost like 20-25 MB, so it might take a second to kind of load. Meanwhile, I'll just take you through the other things that we have.
Okay.
Now, as an admin, when I do all these things, and one of the challenge that I always fear is, what if something fails? How do I get to know what failed and where it stopped?
Yep.
So every activity that has been performed till now has been captured in the log. So I can go here. I can say, okay, I migrated the app. Okay, and then show me what all logs that I have.
Okay.
I can go here and I can say that, okay, I'm looking for only one app, which is sales, right?
Right.
And I can just see the entire logs here, that what happened, what time, how it flowed, right?
Wow.
And
so
sometimes,
there's a lot. Yeah. So this is interesting because you just pressed a button. The audit is showing you all of the many things that it actually did.
Yes. Correct.
Absolutely. And Dalton, this is one of the key things I would say anybody wants to see is that everything has gone through okay. I mean, it's not just that some things shot out in the air and then we're trusting it.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting to see, each step of what the APIs were doing there. So even though it was one app, there's probably 10, 15 different things that had to occur for that one app to get moved, which is the reason to use something like an accelerator, right? There are a lot of steps to go through. So neat. Okay.
Yeah. And then once you are done with this, and let's say tomorrow, I mean, if your, project manager or someone says that, okay, show me what you have done, and you want to kind of, export these logs, you can simply click on the export to Excel, and that will kind of create an Excel for those logs.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
Let me go back to cloud and let's see what happens here. So if I go to details, if I go to reload history, you can see it's success.
Okay.
Right. Now let me open this. So earlier we had seen that it has no data. Right. Now let's open, see whether it has got any data or not. So now you can see it has the data.
Gotcha.
Right? My app is already been built.
Right. Yeah.
Also, because this user had the private content, it also got the private content.
Okay. Yep. Nice.
Yep. So this kind of helps to migrate and make it easy for any migrations to finish in maybe lesser time. I wouldn't say just a click and migrate and everything is boom.
Nice.
It's to be a lot of things that goes behind. So as Amit was earlier saying that it's not just a migration. We don't want to give that impression to the viewers that this migration accelerator will kind of help you move everything with a single click.
Nice.
No, you have to kind of have the assessment done. You have to have the planning done. A lot of things that you have to configure on the Qlik Cloud side, IDP, your data connections, right? And then, once you have these basic things done, then migrator can help you kind of move faster, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Very cool. So if a company had somebody really sharp as an admin who's been doing the Qlik stuff, they're bleeding green, gray, white, they wear bow ties. They could buy the product, help themselves get moved, they would probably already understand data connections and those steps. For
Correct.
others, I imagine they can buy the product and then also get consulting time to manage this project and have somebody at least know, hey, you were looking at a local file system on-prem. What are you going to do with your space? Are you going to S3 buckets? Are you gonna use OneDrive? Are you gonna use Dropbox? Where are you gonna put your files that are shared up in the cloud? For things like SAP, let's get your data gateway installed. So that on-prem, you don't have to think about it. You talk to your SQL Server, boom, right? You talk to SAP, boom. When you're in the cloud, we're going to need that data gateway so that the data can get shoved to you from your local SQL Server or SAP connection. Cool stuff.
Correct.
So now this
not
is
only
go ahead.
Yeah, not only this, but one of the critical things that we see is when you are on-prem, right? You have your own servers, so you can create, the apps, and you can create a mess around it.
Yes.
For example, you may have an app which is like 35 gigs, which is opening in the RAM like 200 gigs or so.
Yeah.
So definitely you don't want to move as it is to cloud, because then you have limitations on the size that you can move based on the licenses, absolutely. But then before you move, you want to ensure that you move the optimized app, and it has to be a cleaner environment.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So we also have in the product suite, we also have a product which is telemetry and performance, where we have a component where I being an admin understand that out of my client environment that I have, which are the heavy apps that I have, within those apps, which are the objects which are taking a long time. Is it that the data? Is it that the objects? Because typically we have seen this, like most users are more comfortable with the tabular objects, right? And when you have millions of rows in a tabular object, it's going to kill.
With no conditional statements in it, yes.
Yeah. So and then over a period of time, you may have developed an app, and that might have like unused fields which are causing a lot of issues.
Yep.
So you kind of get to understand everything using that telemetry and performance.
Yep.
And you optimize and you decide that what you have to do. Then you do the migration using what we have just seen.
Yes.
And the next one we have is like management console.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'd love to see that, because now I've had my environment up and running for like 5 whole minutes. Everything's been migrated. My connections are working. I need to start managing this environment. I spend a lot of time managing my client environment. I want to manage this environment. So let's take a look at your management console.
Okay, so I'll just open the management console. Okay. So again, I have to log in. So, before I introduce this screen to you, let me again take you. So once you install and once you configure this, the first thing that you have to do is, again, the licensing.
Sure.
And once the licensing is there, you have to connect to the Qlik Cloud, right?
Or to your cloud.
Whatever tenants that you want to manage.
Right. Yep.
It's going to be the same. Now, here I have connected to two, Qlik Cloud that I have.
Yep.
Okay, there is a reason behind it. I'll definitely talk about that later on.
And again, it looks this is a client you're installing this management console on an on-prem server or something that they manage.
Absolutely. Yep. So again, we don't want this data, because this is a critical data. We don't want that to be having accessible outside of your environment. So better you install on any of the server that you have.
Cool.
So Dalton, in general, we just don't want to get into any data. We want to keep the customer data with the customer and just forget about it.
Customers seem to like that idea too, Amit, that they like maintaining their own data, not having it in other people's hands. That seems to be an issue these days.
Yes, absolutely. And same with us. we don't want to keep maintaining others' data unnecessarily.
I'll bet. A lot of worries and lack of sleep as a result of that.
Yep.
Okay, so now let me take you to the home screen back. Okay.
Okay.
So once you configure this, once you have all the configurations to cloud and everything done, the home screen will show you that how many apps that you have on an environment, how many users you have overall, how many shared space, how many managed space that you have. And then you also get to know that what is the license that you have, because this is the critical information for an admin.
Yes.
So if I'm Qlik admin, definitely considering that I'm Qlik admin of Qlik, on-prem,
yep.
I would be ensuring that I have enough licenses available. I have enough, space available,
Sure.
everything, right? So same thing applies to SaaS, that on SaaS, we have licenses like analyzer, we have analyzer time,
Yep.
right? Whether I have a geo analytics available or not, whether I have web
Wow.
connectors, or how
Okay.
many concurrencies that I have. So every information about the license is available here.
Very cool.
Right?
Yep.
Then you click on the apps, let's say, and it will
Wow.
take you and show you all the apps that you have on-prem. So now you can see that I have all these apps, which is there. And I'm sure that we are going to have consumer sales that we just moved, right?
Yes.
So you can say test sales.
Yep.
This is the app that we have moved, right?
Yep.
Now, here on the apps, one thing which is very critical being an admin is, I can get the list of all the apps, I can get the metadata, but when that app has been reloaded, it has been failed, is something that I can see immediately here.
Yes.
Right? So this shows me that yes, app has been successfully reloaded last time. There is no failure,
Yep.
nothing.
Yep.
Now, if being an admin, if I see something is failed, I can right click here and simply start reloading it.
Okay.
Right. So I don't have to go to Qlik Cloud, go to the space, go to the apps, and just say right click and reload.
Nice.
I can do it right here, right now.
Okay. Yep.
Right. Same way, I can also go to the reload history, and I can see that when last it was been reloaded.
Okay.
Right. And simply download the logs as well. So if anything fails,
very cool. Yeah.
I can simply see those script logs and I can kind of try to,
so
rectify whatever things are there.
Same thing that you would see if you right-clicked on an app and picked details and then said,
Yes.
show me the reload history.
Absolutely right.
Show me the log because it shows me that it failed. Instead of having to go find it in the haystack, you're just bringing all the needles that were in all the haystacks right to a user interface here.
Absolutely right.
Okay. I like it.
It's about making life simple.
That's a good thing. That's kind of my slogan too. Let's make it simple. Cool.
One more thing, which is there. I don't know, we might not have it here now. Sometimes it is a challenging for an Qlik Cloud admin to understand that how many apps are currently getting reloaded.
Right.
Right. I can definitely see that whether it has been reloaded last time or not. I can see the history, but I cannot see the current status of it. So you can go here. You can just say that, okay, I want to see any apps which has been queued.
Interesting.
As you know, as you know, like for a large customer, you have a limit of 30 concurrent reloads going on, right?
Right.
Now, if you have 30 first, it will go in queue.
Sure.
So you can actually see how many has been queued, how many is currently being reloaded.
Wow.
And simply have a look at that.
Okay.
Right. One more important feature that we have here is migrate. Okay. Now, initially, I've shown you that I have connected to 2 Qlik Cloud environments. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, assume that you have 2 tenants. One could be, if you're a large customer, you may have one tenant specifically for development, testing. One could be your production.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you migrate an app from your one tenant to another? So that's where you can do using this. So I can go here. I can say, okay, for example, XYZ space.
Wow.
I have an app, right? Where you want to move this.
Huh.
So you may have 2-3 environments configured. So I say, okay, I want to go to this environment. I want to go to this particular space and say migrate.
Nice.
Right? it will say it's without data. So you say, okay.
Now,
And this
when you
migration
migrate it from a cloud to a cloud, are you
yes.
taking care of the user access for that and the data connection and everything, or what
This moment it's
are you
just an
doing the
app.
migration? Just the app.
Yeah. So because see, what we assume here is that app will already have the data connections, and data connections will be there on the other tenant as well, right?
But
so
you're
that's what
basically at that point you're saying we've completed our testing, you know, or we've checked with the new extensions or whatever it is that we do for our tests. We've completed it. Let's move it. Okay.
Correct. So I'm just logging into another cloud tenant that I have, and I'll just go to the space that we selected. So demo space, and then you can see consumer sales here.
Yep.
It is updated just a minute ago.
Nice. That's just in time right there.
Yeah. So what you can do is when you have to migrate from one tenant to another, you can simply do this.
Okay.
Right. Now there's one more thing, which is a restore, which is also a very critical use case that we are trying to solve here. Is if you know, right now on Qlik Cloud, we have two spaces: shared space, managed space.
Right.
Once you have an app on a managed space, right now, using which you can actually take a backup of it and move it to your development space, right?
Okay.
But what you can do here is you can actually download those. So, for example, if I go to any of the app, let's take the same sales app, okay? Consumer sales. Now I'll say take a backup.
Okay. And then where does the backup go?
Backup will be stored locally where this product has been installed.
Where you've installed it in the client managed whatever server. Okay.
Yes. Right. And then you can just go and say restore. I can say, okay, I want to restore what? So I want to restore this app. I can say get the backup.
Wow.
And then here you can see whatever version of the backup that you have taken.
Nice.
You can select whatever version. You can select the backup file and where you want to back up this again. Whether it's the same space, whether it's a different space, you can simply decide that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can say, okay, I want to move it to Wowizer QMC. I can just say restore.
Nice.
So this will again restore everything back to that space. But this is also useful when you want to take a backup and ensure that your critical apps has been maintained properly.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't say this is like full-fledged version control as such, but then it gives a little flexibility being an admin that I can ensure that my apps and everything is properly backed up.
Nice. And it gives you the ability to back them up to your client managed server and not have to dump them out into GitHub or wherever else.
Absolutely. Okay. No jargons of all those things. Because see, when you have GitHubs and everything, I mean, there is a lot, when you do an integration, there is a lot of things that you have to take care of, right?
Yep.
The entire DevOps that comes into picture when you have GitHub.
Okay.
So we didn't want it to kind of make it more complex and just give a simple functionalities to users that, okay, you already have this on your on-prem. Simply take a download on your machine and that's it.
Nice. Now I'm imagining that some of your big customers are going to say, instead of picking them one by one, can't you just back them all up?
Yes. So that's the next thing that our team is working on. Cool. So yeah.
Now the thing that I'm really excited about, I see task chain there on the left side. What is that, man?
Yeah. So okay, let me go directly to task chain. Okay. So as you know, right now, the biggest challenge for bigger customers, the larger customers who are heavily deployed on Qlik on-prem to go on a cloud is the task chain. Because on-prem, there is a functionality where I can decide that, okay, this app I want to reload, but it has to be dependent on some other app. Right. So only when my parent app has been reloaded, I want to reload this app.
Yep.
Okay. Which at this moment on Qlik Cloud, by default, it is not there. But then you can still use the automations to kind of replicate the similar functionality.
Yeah.
But then the problem with the automation is you have a limit. Based on the license, you may have a limit on the number of automations that can run parallelly.
Right.
Right. Also, maintaining those app IDs. So tomorrow, if app ID changes, right, you may have to again go back and make those changes into automations. So it is little cumbersome in terms of maintaining it.
Yep.
What we have done is we have actually built that functionality within the product where you're not dependent on automation runs. You can simply create that task chain here. For example,
nice.
I can just click on the plus button. And let's say I want to create a task chain for sales. So I'll just say sales. I'll just say sales task chain.
Okay.
Right? If I want to give a description, I can give it. Or else I can start choosing my app. So I can just say, okay, I want to go to a space. I want to go to, let's say, for example, this space. And let's say because it's a, or let's take a use case. So here, let's take a use case of that. I want to run the transformation once my extraction is done.
Okay.
So I will say that, okay, my extraction has been done, let's say, by source data transactions.
Okay.
And then once this is completed, I want to run, let's say, again, go back to the space and sales transformation.
Okay.
This is just simple one-to-one where I say, okay, when the source data extraction is done, my sales transformation has to be done.
Makes sense.
Right? I can simply say save and that's it. Your task chain has been created. So I'll just say save.
And now, what if I wanted a second requirement? I needed extraction 1 and I needed extraction 2. Like from SAP, I need to extract the common tables and I need to extract these sales fact tables.
Okay. So there could be 2 ways. So one thing is, let me just edit this and show you that as well.
Okay.
Or let me just do one thing. Let me just create a new one. Okay. So this time, let's say, again, I want to have it in the same, but let's say this is my transformation chain, right? I'll say, okay, go to an app, Wowizer. I'll select the same extraction app for now.
Nice.
Say shared space, go to the space, and this time, let's say, for example, inventory transformation.
Okay.
Now, along with the inventory transformation, I also want to have one more, which is, let's say, which may run parallelly. Let's say, let's go to the test sales and consumer sales, right?
Okay.
So at this moment, what will happen is, in earlier case, you had one-to-one, but now you have one-to-many. Nice. Meaning that when source data extraction is completed, your inventory and consumer sales both will run parallelly.
Okay.
Okay. So that's one way. So you can actually have n number of such things. So you can have one-to-many relations, right? Third thing that you have is you can actually go to more complex scenarios.
Yeah.
Saying that I want to run this inventory transformation only when my sales transformation is done. So I can just say dependent app, go here, go to the space. In a last scenario, we had created a sales transformation. So I can say when the sales transformation is successful, then only I want to run the inventory transformation.
Okay.
So in a scenario where you have multiple tables, or in ETL, generally it happens that, when you do a transformation, you take a data from sales, you take a data from inventory, you take a data from procurement, finance, right?
Yeah.
You want to ensure that once all of those transformation has been done, then only you want to do kind of another level of aggregation.
Nice.
That dependency also you can set here.
Yep.
Right? I can simply say save and that's been created.
Fantastic.
And then I can see those here. Now let's say if I want to run this chain, I can simply go here and just say run. And boom, the entire chain will start running.
Love it. I love it.
Right? So using this, it becomes very easier for large customers to move to cloud, because then they are not dependent on automations. They are not dependent on total number of concurrent reloads, which is there, because this entire task chaining has been handled by the platform.
Nice. And I like this architecture with it being on-prem, because I can imagine, again, if I was at one of your big customers, I might say, oh, I have this other requirement that's happening that's not about Qlik at all. When these files get FTP'd to me, I want this thing to kick off. And while
Absolutely.
you may not have it in there now, I'm assuming whatever those customers could need could be added to the product, and you could have local requirements that also then are dependencies.
So that's actually a valid point, and that's a valid use case also, because when you go to cloud, as we have seen in our previous example, that my data is now coming from OneDrive, right?
Yes.
So whenever I have files, let's say, and especially for finance, when the budgeting happens, right? So I want to ensure that once the budget file is available, then only I want to start my reloads.
Yep.
And definitely right now, there is no way you can just go and check whether the budget file is available or not. So you can extend this platform to do that as well. Absolutely.
Nice. I like it. Fantastic.
So our customers keep stretching us for these use cases, and these trigger use cases have already come to us. So thanks to them.
If I was your customer, I'd be stretching you right now. But I
like
anytime, Darwin.
I like the architecture being there for me to do that. Fantastic tools. And as I mentioned, you guys also have log reading things that give, even just if you're still on-prem and you're not really planning to move to the cloud, they've got some fantastic log reading things that give you incredible information. Again, just to bring those things right to your attention rather than you having to go find these things. So if you could stop sharing your screen, let's just go ahead and kind of wrap up with a little talk. Where do you guys see, what do you guys see as your next steps? What are your, like, what things do you have on your roadmap already from customers, or you're brainstorming with what you plan to do next?
I guess I'll let Amit speak a little bit. Meanwhile, I'll just grab a little water.
He's going to put you on the hook, man, because he's going to say things you're like, oh, shoot, now I got to go do it.
Right.
All right.
So we're seeing a lot of traction in data integration. And although Qlik said that like if we really want to make it very easy for everyone, 90% of our customers like it real easy, but 10% of our customers have GitHub and all the Jenkins kind of stuff implemented. Our team already understands all of that. So we do have a version of that which we might roll out. So that's one of it, something which is on our mind. Log analytics has been very good, alerting with CPU and RAM and those pieces for on-prem customers is very important, because still 90% of the Qlik customers are on-prem. And for them to move to cloud, we need to have a great user experience while they're on-prem.
Correct.
So,
and that's I mentioned that you guys had the log reading. I forgot to mention that, as you just did, the alerting. You don't have to go out and read 80,000 lines of logs. You're going to get notified you've got an issue before the end users are the ones calling you. I met with people at Qlik Connect, and the guy was panicked. These guys, like, 99% of our apps are perfect. Our dashboard that the CEO uses personally is one that keeps having issues. We're tired of him being the one notifying us. What can we do? So I was able to help them with a Qlik app automation to recognize issues and then redo things. And it was simply a matter of their data source was getting locked up like once or twice a day when they did backups, and it was just locking something up. They knew it was in their data source, and they just needed the thing to refire if it failed. And so we built an automation, but it was I don't want my CEO to call us anymore. We just got to just happen automatically.
You saved it in the day.
Alerting is key, man. You never want to get a notification that something's failed, because that interrupts your day. But man, it's a lot easier to get a notification and fix it before it's the CEO or some other big cheeses in the organization screaming at you, So it was a good thing to have. Well, once I got them happy, you know, I was like, hey, it's great to know that your CEO is relying on that data to make their decisions.
Right.
And, you
Yep.
know, that thing is not updated
Yeah.
frequently because they were reloading hourly, which means that, you know, their CEO's making decisions on fresh data. And I loved that.
Right.
So once we got them up and running, but it was production change like right while we were at Connect, which is always the
Right.
fun thing. But yeah,
Cool.
that'll proactively alerting people is
Mhm.
fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
and so how was your experience at Qlik Connect? Because this is the second time you guys have had a booth and sponsored now.
Right.
Has it been pretty overwhelming with people flooding the booth? Um,
Right.
to where you're like on your feet talking like all the time?
Yeah, this time was incredibly good. So there was a lot of traction. Some of our old customers showed up at Qlik Connect for those who had seen our log analytics product and who
Nice.
had kind of experienced it. We had our customers out there, which actually made it really good. And it was very nice to meet all of them and
Yep.
hear from their experiences. So
Very, very good.
and also there was a AI-based troubleshooter which we just introduced, and we got some nice feedback on that piece too, where
Uh-oh,
you
I
can
haven't
actually
seen that.
quickly
I'm going to have to
troubleshoot.
see that offline.
Sure, sure,
Sure.
sure.
Nice, nice. All right, guys. Well, Kaushik, what's one last thing you'd like to tell people who are watching today?
Uh, I would say that you know, keep using Qlik. Qlik, you know, that's what we do. I mean, when we talk about Qlik, it's the ocean, right? I mean, I cannot say a single word about Qlik. So I would say that you know, if you're a Qlik user, I mean, just keep using Qlik. You know, that's what it is. Yeah.
That's always a plan. That's always the plan. And how about you, Amit?
I would say sustainability matters, and whatever you do, sustainability can be profitable. So that's one thing. And we can leverage Qlik to actually do analytics and make sustainability profitable,
Nice.
so
And
that
that
there's
obviously,
more and more sustainability out there.
yep, and we are doing that more and more and more globally with companies, doing some
Great.
phenomenal things with companies. My last thing that I want to say is the same thing as I always say. I appreciate you watching. I sure hope that you have a great day.